Hey, sixth graders. Here's a recap on what we did today in class on adding and subtracting fractions. I know it's been a lot. A lot of you were struggling a little bit with it, and we're going to definitely be practicing some more. But it just takes some practice. It truly does to do fractions. All right, so the first thing you have to do is we went over this, and anybody who missed today would be a really good go through this. Just keep in mind you can never add or subtract a denominator, okay? I can't do 4 plus 3 on this fraction right here because 3/4 and 1/3, if I add them together, I'm not going to get 4/7, okay? 3/4 is almost 1 whole. 3/4 plus 1/3 is going to give me more than 1 whole. It's not going to give me 7ths. There's no way I can get from 4ths to 7ths in this problem, okay? So just keep in mind, you can never, ever add or subtract a denominator, okay? So here are the steps. You find the least common denominator. That's your least common multiple, but as a denominator. So I look at my denominators, like here, 4 and 3, and I'm going to say, what is the first number that 4 and 3 can both go into evenly? And they listed out the factors. If you had 3, it's 3, 6, 9, 12. If you had 4, you had 4, 8, 12, 16. The first number that they went into evenly was 12. So they used 12 as a denominator, okay? You might also notice that 4 times 3 is 12. That will always work to find your denominator. It might not be your smallest one though, okay? And that's okay. If you get stuck and can't figure out what it is, go for it, okay? You just multiply the denominators together. That will always give you a common denominator, okay? It's just easier if you find the least common because you have less reducing at the end of your problem to do, okay? It's usually in lowest terms when you're done. Okay, so on this problem, and I'm just going to go through a couple problems with you, just remember that and we're going to be doing them up and down, not across, because I think across it's too confusing. But if I looked at 4 and 3, that's the same as this one, 12. They both went into 12. How did I get from 4 to 12? I multiplied by 3. Whatever I did to that fraction denominator, I have to do to its matching numerator. So I did 3 times 3. That's how I got 9/12. How did I get from 3 to 12? Well, I multiplied that by 4. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12. So I have to multiply the numerator by 4. So that's the second step. When it says rewrite a fraction, this step here, this yellow one, that's what that means. Rewrite that, your equivalent fractions. So now, since I have the same denominator, I can add or subtract my numerators. This is an addition problem, so I added my numerators. 9 plus 4 was 13. I keep my 12 because we never add or subtract denominators. Okay, and then once I get here, that's on lowest term. Remember, that's a little top heavy, this guy. The numerator is bigger than the denominator, so I just change it back to a mixed number, and that's what we've been doing up till now. Okay, so that shouldn't be too big of a problem. So these notes will be online, so if you kind of see what I did, I looked for the first thing that 10 and 5 go into, which in this case is going to be 10. Could I use 50? Yes. Could I use 20? Yes. Could I use 30? Yes. Okay, all of those numbers, 5 and 10, both go into. But if I want to do the least amount of reducing at the end of my problem, I want the first number they go into. So if this number goes into this number, I'm going to keep the 10. Okay, I could do it different ways, but this will be the easiest. So always look at your numbers. If one goes into the other number, like 3 goes into 6, I'm going to use 6 as my denominator. On the bottom one, I think I got stuck. 4 doesn't go into 6, so obviously I can't use that. So I could do it a couple ways. I could say, sometimes if I take my biggest number and just keep doing the multiples, like 6, 12, does 4 go into 12? Which it does. Okay, I gotta stop there, okay? Could I use 24? Absolutely. As long as whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator, okay? All right, I'm gonna redo these problems on a different page just so we can make sure that you all know what you're doing. We want to do our fractions up and down. It's just easier, and you have to do mixed numbers this way, so you might as well get used to it now. All right, so my first step is to find a common denominator. So I've got 7, and I've got 14. All right, I said, if 7 goes into 14, I'm going to use 14, and it does, okay? So how many? I want to use 14. How do I get from 7 to 14? I multiply by 2. So whatever I did to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. Okay, so then I get 4/14. I'm not going to do anything to this number because it's already in 14ths. I can only add or subtract when these are exactly the same. So now I would just add my numerators. 4 plus 6 is 10, and I keep my denominator. I still have to reduce on this one though, because 10 and 14 is not in lowest terms, okay? There's a factor that goes into both of them, which is 2. I have a 10 and I have a 14. They are both even numbers. 2's will go into every even number. So you really have to check that. Does 2 go into it? Does 3 go into them? Does 5? And we've done that with reducing fractions. So far we've just done the changing mixed to improper and reducing, but this is one that you got to recognize that at least 2 will go into it. So let's see what happens when I divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Nothing goes into 4 and 7, so there's my answer. All right, the next one, I look at my denominators again. I'm gonna use a highlighter this time so I'm not goobing all over it. I've got 5 and I've got 4. I need a number that both 5 and 4 go into. So again, I could start with 5 and do 5. Nope, 4 doesn't go into 5. 10, nope, 4 doesn't go into 10. 15, nope, 4 doesn't go into 15. 20, yes, 4 goes into 20. So I'm gonna use 20, okay? How did I get from 5 to 20? I multiplied by 4. So I have to multiply that guy by 4. How did I get from 4 to 20? I multiplied by 5. So I gotta multiply the numerator by 5. Once I have the same denominator, which I do now, I can add or subtract the numerators depending. You gotta be careful about the sign because on the homework there were some subtraction ones. So when I do this, I would just add 5 plus 16, which is 21, over 20. Okay, you always keep that denominator. And then that's an improper fraction. We need a proper fraction answer. So I would say 20 goes into 21 one time. 1 times 20 is 20, so you had 1 left over to get to 20. Okay? All right, let's do the next one. So I've got 9 and 2. All right, so again, if I start with 9, if I don't know what number they first both go into, I could always multiply 2 times 9, which is literally what I'm going to be doing on this one anyway. But if I start with my factors of 9, I've got 9. Well, 2 doesn't go into 9. How about 18? 2 goes into 18 because 2 goes into all even numbers, so I'm going to use 18. If I kept going, I would have got 27, nope, 36. Yes, I could use those, but I want the smallest number I can get. I multiplied 2 times 9 to get to 18. So I'm going to multiply 1 times 9. I multiplied 9 times 2 to get to 18. So I have to multiply 4 times 2. Okay. Now I have the same denominator. So I can add or subtract the numerators. So 8 plus 9 is 17. Keep my denominator. So I added the numerators, keep the denominator. Okay, so I have 17/18, and that's my answer. Okay, so just remember, keep in mind that you have to find a common denominator first. The second thing you need to do is figure out how did you get to that denominator. So if like in this one, I multiplied by 2. So whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. These are not going to be the same thing because they weren't the same denominators. Okay. I had to multiply by 9, so I have to multiply by 9. So that's my second step. My third step is to add or subtract the numerators and keep the denominator. And the fourth step, if I need it, is to put it in lowest terms. This one's already in lowest terms. There's nothing that can go into 17 and 18, so I am finished. It is 17/18. Okay? If you have any other questions on this, make sure you ask me. They're a little time consuming at first, but once you get the hang of fractions, they're pretty easy. Okay? I will talk to you guys later. Bye.